You are listening to Book Clips, a podcast where authors and narrators expose you to excerpts from different books. You can find the show and more by searching for The Lesbian Talk Show on iTunes, Podbean, or Stitcher.
Hi, this is Brey Willows, and I'll be reading from Fury's Choice, the second book in the Afterlife Inc. series. And I'll be reading from where our two main characters, Kera Espinosa and Tisera Graves, meet. When Kera woke, the sun was sinking below the horizon, and she shivered in the cool evening air. Jesus, I must have been more tired than I realized. She hadn't slept so well, and for so many hours, and longer than she could remember. Energized, she wanted to be around people, but not anyone she knew. She quickly showered and dressed and headed down the coast a few miles to St. Maxime. With luck, she could find a sexy woman with long hair and large breasts to spend the night with. Flirtation and sex were a game, one she was almost magically good at. Venus has nothing on me. She grinned at the thought of giving the goddess of love some tips. Like, don't fall in love. She valeted her petrol-blue Maserati at the far end of the Paseo and strolled along, enjoying the sounds of music and laughter coming from the varied restaurants. Couples walked hand in hand, children raced one another onto the sand, and the sun cast a final gasp of dusky orange light before it sank beneath the horizon. She loved this part of France, far enough from the impossibly rich people of Saint-Tropez and Cannes, but close enough to be cosmopolitan. She'd bought her house there after she'd started the company, knowing she'd need a genuine getaway at some point. Her mansion in Malibu was great, and served as an office as well, but this area felt more like home. There was only one restaurant with a deck that led onto the beach. The others were across the street, and right now she wanted to be near the water. She went in and smiled at the waitress, a woman whose bed she'd enjoyed once or twice, until she'd come back to find her married and pregnant. She kissed her cheek and waved her out onto the deck before she turned and started making Kera a classic mojito with Ray and Nephew rum, Kera's favorite drink. When she stepped onto the deck, she froze. Is it possible? The woman with the white hair sat alone at a table in the corner, reading a book with a tall glass of what looked like iced tea in front of her. Unlike the times Kera had seen her in war zones, she didn't have wings or writhing snakes on her head, and she could easily pass for normal, if incredibly beautiful and unusual looking. Kera's waitress friend nudged her and nodded toward the table with her eyebrows up.
Go ahead. I doubt she bites.
Little do you know. Kera figured she did a lot worse than bite. What the hell. She went over and quietly cleared her throat. Of all the gin joints in all the world. The woman looked up, startled, and stared at Kera for a moment before she gave her a small smile.
She had to walk into mine.
She motioned to the chair across from her.
Please.
Kera sat down and extended her hand. Kera Espinosa. The woman shook her hand, and Kera noticed how cool and dry it was.
Tisera Graves. Friends call me Tiz. Nice to finally meet you.
Kera nodded, glad there wasn't going to be any pretense about them not having seen one another before. It's strange, though, to see you here in the quiet, without bombs going off or people screaming. I almost feel like I should make a scene, just so we know what parts we're playing. Tiz nodded, looking deeply contemplative.
It seems more than strange, to be honest. The world is a big place, and yet here we are at a tiny port in France.
She took a sip of her iced tea, her gaze never leaving Kera's.
Rather, it seems almost fated, and I always know what part I'm playing. I'm sure you do as well.
Kera tried to shrug off the slight chill she felt at the words and smiled. Whatever the reason, I'm incredibly glad for it. I've wanted to meet you for a long time. She sat back and thanked the waitress, who left her drink and a small plate of hors d'oeuvres on the table and with a quick wink.
Truth be told, Kera, I've wondered how you managed to see me at all. If I'm not mistaken, the first time you saw me in Baghdad was years before the gods came out and the veil thinned. Usually if people see me, it's because we're having a discussion. Granted, one person in a century might see me who isn't on my client list, but it's beyond rare.
Kera sipped the cool, minty mojito, savoring the high-end rum, and considered the implied question. My mother was a Vodun priestess, as was her mother. From the time I was born, she introduced me to the Orishas, and I started seeing whoever she was praying to, for whatever thing she was praying about. I always assumed I could see you because you were one of them.
A goddess of the voodoo religion. No, I'm afraid I'm nothing so interesting.
Kera waited for more information, but it wasn't forthcoming. Tiz appeared to be lost in her thoughts. If it's not insulting, May I ask what you are, then? I can assure you, a woman like you is far from not interesting in my rather vast experience with women. Tis focused on her, looking almost surprised to find her there.
I'm sorry. I've been incredibly overwhelmed lately, and I kind of just drift off sometimes.
She folded a napkin corner, then folded it back again before she looked up.
I'm a fury, one of the 3 ancient furies of Greece. My sisters and I deliver justice to those who perpetrate crimes against one another. And good to know you're not spending nights pining about being alone.
Kara nodded and hoped she didn't look as daunted as she felt by the information. There weren't a lot of people who got to sit across from her an immortal thousands of years old. Well, there didn't used to be. That's why we've crossed paths. I'm in places helping the people who are being hurt by the people you're there to deal with. Tis inclined her head.
That makes sense. Tell me what you do.
Talking about her business was one thing Kara knew how to do, and it made talking to a stunning, supernatural being a little bit easier. I run a company called Global Relief and Development Experts, or GRADE. We go to war-torn, poverty-stricken places and try to help. In some places, that means working out how to get them clean water and mosquito netting. In others, like the one in Nigeria where I saw you, we run full-scale rescue and relief programs, taking in women and children who are displaced and in danger. We get them medical care, education, and help them to get on their feet so they don't have to depend on other people. If we have to, we evacuate them to other countries. Tis stared at her as she talked. It was slightly unnerving, the way she focused so intently and didn't break eye contact. Kara rarely felt like someone was truly listening, but there was no question that Tis was.
That sounds noble, but it must take an astounding amount of money and time.
Kara wondered if there was an implied rebuke or question of integrity in the statement. It does. Fortunately, I made a lot of money working in the biomedical field before I started GRADE, which I invested extremely well, mostly in tech and medical companies that surpassed expectations. And in order to make GRADE work, I've developed partnerships with massive corporations as well as some smaller ones. She sipped her drink, wondering how much to explain. Did it matter if this mysterious being, this fury, questioned her ethics? Damn right it does. She'd examine why later. It's not totally altruistic, if you're wondering. I've always believed that in order to do good in the world, you have to be doing well yourself first. If you're struggling to put food on the table, you won't be able to focus on helping others as much as you want to. If you're doing okay, though, then you can really work on making a difference in the world. I and my staff make good money. We still live in hovels when we're working, often in war zones, ducking bombs and trying to help, even when dealing with the worst of humanity. But when we're home, when we're able to take some time off, we can enjoy it. And I do. Enjoy it, I mean.
And with the money you've earned, you have the ability to develop these programs in other countries?
She was glad Tis seemed to understand. Something about having a harbinger of justice-based doom give you the thumbs up had to be a good thing. Exactly. I can't do good without doing well. When I do well through my various business ventures, I try to make the world better. I do what I have to do in order to get things done. Tis finished her iced tea about the same time Kara finished her mojito. She looked uncertain before she said,
I need to go, I'm afraid. Perhaps we could do this again one day.
Kara was disappointed. Guess I said something wrong after all. Sure, that would be great. Tis seemed to sense her feelings, and her hand covered Kara's.
I mean it. I'd like to see you again.
You run into minefields to save kids. You've slept with queens. You can ask a woman out. Okay. Tomorrow? Would you like to come to dinner at my place, say 8 o'clock? I live in Port Grimaud. Tis frowned slightly and was silent for a long moment. Kara swallowed, wondering why it really, really mattered that she said yes.
I'd like that. Thank you.
She raised her translucent gray eyes to meet Kara's, and Kara felt her stomach flip. She'd been with plenty of beautiful women, but never someone, something, as stunning as Tis. Excellent. 56 Ile de Pin. Tis stood and moved away from the table. She gave Kara a tentative smile and inclined her head slightly.
See you tomorrow, Kera Espinosa.
Kara watched as Tis walked to the edge of the water. Her slim, lithe body glowed against the dark night. She knew the moment Tis moved into what Kara thought of as spirit territory, where they weren't visible to all and sundry. It had always reminded her of the heat waves that came off the pavement on a hot day. Tis looked as though she was surrounded by them. She looked over her shoulder at Kara and unfurled her magnificent white wings. With a final smile, she leapt into the air and soared off over the water. She was gone in an instant, leaving Kara holding her breath and in awe of her surreal, powerful beauty. She sat back in her seat and motioned for another mojito. As her pulse slowed to a normal rate, she had a thought. What the hell does a Fury eat? At least I know she drinks iced tea. She pictured Tiz's stunning eyes and sweet, though sad-looking smile. I've got a date. With a Fury. Mom would be so proud. This has been Brey Willows, reading from Fury's Choice, available at Bold Strokes Books. Thanks for listening.
This was an episode of Book Clips. Check out the show notes for more on this book. And it would be great if you would rate the show and subscribe to the Lesbian Talk Show podcast channel for more woman-centered content. If you are an author of lesbian fiction, then send us your reading. You can find out how on thelesbiantalkshow.com/reading.